was also that this policy was also targeted at ensuring this. You can see that we only managed to get 24 million people to vote out of 90 something million people registered, and 24 million in 2023. It was 2019 it was 27 million, 2015 it was 29 million, 2011 it was in 2003 it was 42 million.
Yes,
now what this tells you, I mean, there seems to be a kind of steep decline, which may also mean that Nigerian elections are getting a bit neater. It's certainly not perfect, certainly very imperfect, but it's getting neater, and perhaps this non-availability of cash in a very crucial time like this may have contributed to that. Maybe people who were immobilized decided not to go out and vote, because I think that's also another thing to think about. Maybe a segment of Nigerians exist who would rather just go out to vote if someone gives them something. They are not, and of course we're still growing. I mean, we're still writing history, what was said. So the understanding of democracy is still very low in many places. They do, if they would ask me, rather than squeeze cash of livings of our people, is better than it is, because only when people are comfortable. And this has been noticed, we've repeated it so many times. In the works of Socrates and Plato, they mentioned it. Democracy will only work where people are really, really comfortable, that's what they believed, even as far back as when they existed, way back before the coming of Christ. So we're still trying to operate that. And there's nothing that is happening in our environment today that didn't happen in places like the United States in the 1800s, in the middle 1800s, even into the 1900s, even into 1930 during the Great Depression, even up to 1950, 60, and even up to today in some of the poorer areas of the United States, even in the United Kingdom. The same thing, all this vote buying, voting twice, give a cigarettes for someone to vote for you, give them pork, all of that. So our people need to also go back into history.
Vote inducement happens in the UK,
absolutely,
even as we speak now, or in the United States.
Even as we speak now in the poorer areas of the United States.
Disagree with
it's
you.
the way it works. I did extensive research in this area. I put out a few articles. My articles can be rather long, but that's the reason why they're long, because I try to put everything I know out there. That's the only way I know how to go. So this has been the effect ordinarily. The truth is that the central bank is trying to really achieve the cashless society, minding the fact that there's no society that is cashless in the world. It can only be a matter of degree, even in places like Norway, Sweden.
Yeah, Sweden is a good example.
Where they, but there must still be cash, and people always need to know. They want the psychology of knowing that, look, if I want to use cash, I can use cash. Not that I can't, I can't even get it if I want it. That creates a certain psychology. And so what the central bank is trying to do now is to say, okay, you know what, people have actually collected this money. Can we spend the money so that the money will circulate in the system? And I believe, I'm not a staff of the central bank. I believe that whatever must be done to continue to put more cash into circulation, more new currency. Because I think there are some people who have said, oh, let them go back to the old currency. If you have to go back to the old currency, you still have to go and print the old currency. And why? I mean, are we saying that we are never going to be able to change a currency? I don't see any big deal in terms of changing currency. I think mistakes may have been made, though, in terms of evaluating the amount of currency that needs to be put back into society. Or maybe it became a shock therapy, a kind of shock treatment, to try and force this cashless. And indeed, of course, a lot of people have now gone cashless. However, that is also putting pressure on the e-systems of the banks. I mean, yesterday I tried to, and so many people, you want to send money to people, you are trying so many times, at the end of the day you give up. That itself is affecting commerce. But I believe that, let's put it this way. As we round up politics, I believe we should please go back to normal. We want to be able to go to our banks and withdraw 100,000 cash without hassles. That is what the current law is. According to the central bank, they said we can still take 100,000 across the counter of new currency. I think we need to be able to get to that point. I really hope that this doesn't continue to be a real problem. And I think that in the last few days, the pressure on the banks have reduced as well. because we're beginning to see spontaneous spending of the new currencies in supermarkets, in different places, but people are still very wary, very afraid to spend, because the idea is, if I let go of this money, so all of us are
hoarding the money.
Exactly. Well, you call it hoarding, but the thing is that people are thinking, if I spend this money, will I get it back?
Exactly. So I hear you, but the issue also is, which I asked even when this policy was announced, I've done several analysis on that. Can Nigeria really achieve a cashless economy, or less cash?
It's less cash. So I told you, there's no way there's cashless. Now, mind you, there are merits and demerits with cashless society and all. A place like Germany, they don't believe in cards that much. If you are going to Germany today, you are advised to hold your euro, cash, because maybe, in fact, people traced it back to maybe their experiences with world wars